The whole thing is that the conflict appears to be external, on the outside. But the real conflict is actually inwards. And how this comes about is that there is an image which I call me. And this image has been formed of past elements, memory. It comes about through conditioning. I am so and so, I am this, I am that. I am a religious person, I am a humble person, I am from a good background, I belong to this lineage, I belong to that system, my belief is this, my idea is this. So, all these attachment to identifications create this image, me. Now, the thing is that this me is a movement in mind which is eternally restless. And it is always afraid, scared. So, what it does is it creates an outward projection, right? And it creates another image. Now, see, the me is actually in the past from memory. And it has created an image again from the elements of past based on conditioning, but now it is projecting that image in the future. And the me thinks that it has to start from this place where it is conflicted, where it is in pain, in continuous suffering. And the only way, only solution it sees to end this pain, this conflict, is to conform to this future image. But you see, the problem is that this image here, the me, and the future image that it is projecting, they are not two, they are one. The observer and the observed are one. Jiddu Krishnamurti's words. So, if one goes into deep contemplation, then one begins to question this image, me. That is it really here, right now, in this moment? Does it have anything concrete in it? If you see that this image, me, constantly changes, it continuously changes. And the idea of evolution, the idea of changing to become better, to become this, to become that, to be conflict free, that movement itself is causing suffering. So the solution itself becomes the roadblock to see the suffering for what it is. And till this separation between the me and the projected image remains, the conflict will always remain. So when we look at ourselves, we say that, say for example, if I say that I am not a good parent or I am not a good spouse, and this is the image I have formed of myself in this moment, right? Of course it is in the past, but it feels as if this moment is my reality. And I now project a future image where I imagine myself to be the perfect spouse, to be the perfect family man of women, and that all variables in my life are going right. And that is the perfection I seek to achieve. Now, in this movement of achieving that perfection, we are creating pain because it is inevitable that we will fail in that. The moments where we succeed, we create pride and arrogance. And the moments where we fail, we create guilt and shame. So you see, life keeps us trapped in this never-ending cycle of guilt and shame and pride and arrogance. Both are pain. So the key to eliminating suffering is to understanding the nature of suffering with total mind, with the whole mind. So if one looks at this image me for what it is, then that itself becomes the key to ending the suffering. And this is what self-inquiry essentially is. This is what self-investigation, self-reflection again is. And it is not a forced inquiry. You don't start with an assumption that I am flawed. Because if you start with that assumption, then you're keeping the subject, the me, alive. You start with a complete understanding that these things may not be in my control. That all these projections I'm creating for future may not come to fruition. And in that understanding, the image drops by itself. And when the image drops, the future projection cannot also sustain. So the observer becomes the observed, the seer, seer becomes the seen. That is what the scriptures also say. So that, in my view, is total acceptance of what is. The total understandings of the way the things are, without needing to change anything. Because the obsessive need to change things based on a certain idea, that itself perpetuates suffering. Because we are unconsciously chasing a future image. It has got nothing to do with the reality of the moment. And this moment is now. So I'll end this small talk with a verse from Kabir. So Kabir says, बुरा जो देखन मैं गया, बुरा न मिलया कोई, आपन मन जो खोजया, मुझसे बुरा न कोई. What he says then, that when I go to see the evil, I cannot find any evil. But when I look at my own mind, there is no greater evil than me.